What do you think sort of the case for is, given that it has spiralled out of control in terms of money, certainly?
Well, thanks, Peter. It's good to be here. And certainly it's really frustrating that we've seen these promises to the north on key transport infrastructure being walked back in recent days. And it seems like the government doesn't know whether it's scrapping it or not at this point. There's this chaos and instability which we've seen with this project over the last 13 years. And it's so frustrating because really, it's part of a long-term trend when it comes to promises to the north in terms of transport infrastructure. Transport is the backbone of the levelling up agenda. It's about connecting our regions. It's about helping people get to jobs and create that economic growth that we need. But our analysis shows that if the north had received the same level of investment as London has had over the last decade, it would have had £86 billion more. So this is more of the same of broken promises to the north and holding back our economy.
But I mean, there are real links, certainly between London and Manchester anyway. There are very frequent trains between London and Manchester. And on the capacity side, we're always told this about capacity. Is it really? I mean, surely lots of people just go on Zoom to have meetings rather than going between, for example, Manchester and London. I mean, there are other legs we can talk about in a minute. But in terms of London and Manchester, I mean, I'm going to Manchester on Sunday. There are loads of trains, one every couple of hours, or every hour on some occasions.
Well, the analysis from Greater Manchester Combined Authority shows that HS2, this particular leg of it, would create 96,000 jobs.
I mean, they would say that, wouldn't they? OK, Joe Rukin from StopHS2, you have a smile on your face at those figures?
I know, it's just pulling fingers out the air. I just saw Bev Craig, the leader of Manchester City Council, on Sky, and she actually said that HS2 will lead to a doubling of the economic output of the entire Greater Manchester area. And you just think, seriously, you've actually gone on national television and said that it's going to double the economic output of the entire region. Who are you trying to kid? Like, this is insanity. Like, there are so many of these ridiculous figures that have been made up.
Well, casting that just to one side for a second, Joe, what do you think the fundamental argument against HS2 is?
No business case, no environmental case, no money to pay for it. That's the slogan we came up with 13 years ago, and it's still as true today as it is now.
Minor issue, Luke Myer, isn't it? Those three aspects that Joe was talking about.
Well, we have seen the costs continue to spiral, but the reason for that is because of this decade of instability and delay, continually chopping and changing these plans. And in fact, the leg that has been built to Birmingham is the leg that had the lowest return on investment. So it's not so we're seeing this continual focus on London to the detriment of the rest of the north. It was the leg to Leeds, which was the first to be scrapped, which had the biggest return on investment projected, and that's gone. And so we're seeing this long-term trend of scrapping promises to the north when it comes to transport. Northern Powerhouse Rail, the so-called high-speed 3 to Leeds, even the Pacer trains, it took years for them to finally get them off our rail routes in the north. And so this is more of the same when it comes to delivering for the north. And really, we need to see this long-term vision if we're going to unlock the same kind of growth that we're seeing in France, Japan, and other countries around the world.
Joe, Luke's got a point, hasn't he, in that if you're sitting in the north of England, and I always keep in my head that 82% of our viewers and listeners of TalkTV do not live in London, and we cannot be too London focused like so many other channels. We need to think of people right across the country. Surely you would be pretty narked if yet again this major infrastructure project, which, listen, wonderful, terrible, however it is, it did create jobs. It certainly has injected at least some cash into the north of England. Clearly there are people in the north who'd just be very annoyed about this.
Well, just to correct Luke first off, the first bit of HS2 that was cancelled was a link to Heathrow. Then they cancelled the link to HS1 and the Channel Tunnel. Then they cancelled the Leeds-Sheffield link. And the thing is, yeah, I can understand why you're seeing today people like Andy Burnham, who, by the way, when he was standing to be Labour leader, very much said that he thought east-west links were more important than north-south, who are obviously, with the smell of an election in the air, they're trying to play this as some sort of north-south class war. But the bottom line is, as Luke will know, that Jim O'Neill as well said that if you want to improve the economy of the north, you need to spend that money in the north of England on inter-urban rail projects, well, inter-urban transport projects, full stop, because that's what the vast majority of passengers are. They are short-distance commuters, people travelling in and around the cities where they live. And this whole concept that it's going to free up capacity is totally specious, because the idea that HS2 will free up capacity relies on cancelling the existing trains. They said, oh, well, we get London to Manchester and put that on HS2. We don't need the existing London to Manchester trains, but those trains, they stop at Wilmslow or Crewe or Stafford or maybe Macclesfield or Stoke, and as well they'll stop at Stockport and Lichfield and Tamworth and Nuneaton. And the Birmingham to Manchester trains, again, they stop at Stockport and Macclesfield and Stoke and Wolverhampton.
Okay, let's have Luke respond to those points. A final word from Luke, please.
Well, it's the case that there are a huge number of transport projects across the north that need investing in. I'm based in the northeast. We need to see the Leamside line in the north of the region. Teesside has had loads of bus routes cut recently. And so there are a whole load of transport projects that need investing in. But it's not the case that scrapping this is the solution, because if we want to deliver them and not see more of these broken promises we've seen over the last 13 years, we need to have this kind of a long-term stability from government. And in fact, whether it was on net zero last week or whether it's on High Speed 2 this week, it's the chopping and changing which is so toxic to investment and which is holding our economy back.
Well, listen,
where's the money going to come from? If you spend all the money on HS2, where's the money going to come from for all those smaller projects? We've already seen electrification cut back as a result of the spend on HS2. The cost of HS2 is going to keep going up. It's going to suck up all the money, and that money is going to get transferred down to London, because that's what you do when you link anywhere to London.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Perhaps unlike HS2, this debate will run and run. Thank you to Joe Rukin, who is from StopHS2, and Luke Myer, who is a research fellow with IPPR North.